time for Wednesday's hour number 2 on Hashtag Daily K with your host, Peter Bint. Korean dramas, movies, and even lyrics. Why is the world paying attention to Korean stories?
From classics to modern masterpieces, time to dig deep into the charms of Korean literature.
On Check It Out
with Paul.
It is a Wednesday. Paul Matthews is in the studio. It's Check It Out time. Check meaning book in Korean. Don't forget, that's our pun there in the title. How are we doing, Paul?
Doing very well. Hello, hello.
We're already into November. Look at that.
It's mid-November, Peter.
Oh my goodness, the 8th. Any big plans? Did you have a good Guy Fawkes Day?
Here, in Korea. No, I didn't.
Could you explain? I know this is a Korean culture show, but for anyone interested in British culture, what is Guy Fawkes Day?
Remember the 5th of November,
Yes.
Gunpowder, treason and plot.
Oh, wow, you remember that whole
That's
little
the rhyme. Yes, Guy Fawkes was a traitor to Britain who was part of a conspiracy to blow up the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah,
he was caught the night before it happened.
Didn't he fall asleep or something with the gunpowder?
No, I'm not sure. But in any case, traditionally an effigy of him, a figure, a Guy Fawkes, like a mannequin, is burned on the day. And way back when, kids used to make their own mannequin, and they'd take a wheelbarrow and they'd go round the streets and they'd stop everyone they saw and say, "Penny for the guy! Penny for the guy!"
That was a thing, wasn't it? I remember that saying, penny for the guy.
But by the time we were growing up, you wouldn't see kids doing that.
No, you just still knew that was a tradition, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder how big it is still to this day. Because when I was little, everyone went out for fireworks night.
I think still these days, COVID may have stopped it for a little bit, but it's an important part of British culture because this time of year in the UK, it gets really dark and really cold and really wet.
Yeah.
So what you want is a nice big fire and lots of fireworks to make you feel better.
That's true, isn't it? November 5th. It must always come after the clocks changing and it getting dark really early.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? I never thought about it like that. Today's book, I love the title to start
It's a great title, yeah. Left's right, comma, right's left.
Okay.
Or in Korean, 왼쪽의 오른쪽, 오른쪽의 왼쪽.
Oh.
It's got a nice rhythm to it in Korean as well.
Absolutely.
It's by Han Yujoo. It's translated by Janet Hong. And I'm excited because this is part of a series of chapbooks.
What's a chapbook?
It's a gentleman book. No, a chapbook. They're very thin paperbacks with would traditionally have like a staple in the middle.
Okay.
So they look a bit like a small magazine.
Ah.
So these chapbooks are short stories, basically. They're not full novels.
Okay.
And there's 8 of them in this series.
Yeah.
It's called Yujoo, New Voices Korea. And you get lots of great translators, lots of great modern Korean authors. Ooh. And it's publishing something that mainstream publishers might not necessarily publish. A little bit experimental, a little bit different, a little bit challenging.
Okay.
So I thought I'd introduce the series with this book, which I love. It's a really, really great short story. We get a minute of a woman's life.
A minute?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's speaking in her mind to her dead friend.
Oh.
And she herself is worried that she's about to die.
Oh, wow, that's intriguing, isn't it? As a little premise, a minute of somebody's life. I guess it would be crucial what kind of minute you choose. Tigerish Eo saying, so it's kind of like a dime novel, maybe in the States, a chapbook?
Perhaps, but the term chapbook is used in the States as well. It's often for small poetry collections or indie authors wanting to publish little bits. I'd like if you ever got any fanzines. Did you ever buy any fanzines? Those homemade, independently printed and published magazines on whatever group or TV show or whatever.
Is that the precursor to like fan fiction online?
Well, fanzines wouldn't necessarily have fiction. They would be, info about your favourite thing or whatever it is.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Well, then, that's completely irrelevant. Moving on.
Okay, have we featured Han Yujoo?
A couple of times we featured The Impossible Fairy Tale. the novel before, which was very weird and very good and very disturbing.
Okay.
It also featured another of her short stories. And so she is a brilliant experimental author. She's been writing since she graduated. She went to SNU where she studied German language and literature.
Yeah.
And that was at Hongik University and then SNU. And she's sort of diving into these experimental forms.
Oh.
So in this case, where we have a 33-page short story, which is a minute of someone's life, and yet that minute stretches out.
Wow.
It's an incredible feat of fiction, and I really think it's an exciting genre.
Yeah, what an interesting concept. I think we should do that one time, like write a little story based on a minute of our life in a week between...
Well, you should probably hear what minute is we're talking about, and then you may change your mind.
Oh, no. Okay. Janet Hong, we've mentioned many times. Very talented.
Many times. I don't know the English term for it. In Korean, we say ashua.
Ashua. Okay.
Yeah, the thing that's
shame.
missing, the thing that's a bit of a shame is that we haven't featured some of her best translations on the show because some of her best translations are comic books and graphic novels.
Yes.
So she translates both, but I am in love with her comic book translations. That's how I first encountered her work. She's a great translator for straight fiction as well. But also, she's not afraid, it seems, to go through genres, like to do experimental short stories, to do comic books, to do classic fiction, modern fiction. She's a great translator.
Well done, Janet Hong. You've tickled Paul Pink. Comic books, where do you get them, by the way?
You can order them.
Online?
Yeah, they're harder to find than some of the other more popular literature we featured on the show. But generally, the big bookstores where you can order online, you can find them there.
Oh, nice. Okie dokie. So do we need any scene setting in this short chap book?
Well, this comes from the very beginning, so I guess there's no need to set the scene, as we'll find out from the very start.
Well, let's find out about a woman's 1 minute of her life, and maybe not the best one.
Whenever the first sentence doesn't come to me, I open someone else's book. In books, I'm always able to find a first sentence. Sentences I didn't write. Books open. Books spread open. Open. Opened. Spread. Did spread. I always find the first sentence. Countless first sentences wait for last sentences, but they're not mine. Not what I've written. There are some I wish I'd written. When I see them, when I read them, I want to steal them, but I don't. But maybe I did, while thinking I wasn't stealing. Then one day, a dog appeared. The wind blew, the moon rose. I tried to write a story and erased it instead. I tried to erase it and wrote it instead. Even now, there's a certain scene before me, but everything is blurry. Still, that's not the reason I can't see. I remember a day like this. It was winter. It had snowed heavily the day before. The ice had been vicious the day after the heavy snow, the day the temperature fell below 0 degrees, the day the snowy road turned all at once to ice. I had to go somewhere. I don't remember where. The car wouldn't start. Wouldn't for the life of me. I don't remember where I had to go, but it had been urgent, so I tried to start the car. I tried again and again, and finally heard the engine splutter. But the snow from the night before was piled thick on the windshield, and the air inside the car was cold, and I couldn't see. Everything was white, too white. The clouds had lifted and the sun was shining. I realized from a certain point, it's possible for winter air to be so white it's practically clear. So white even if it doesn't snow. The heater started up and I turned on the wipers, but the wipers didn't move because of the weight of the snow. No, because the snow was frozen. The frozen snow was stubborn and would not move. The wipers barely moved, maybe an inch, if that. I had to clear the ice because I couldn't drive blind. What's ahead is always important. You must keep your eyes on the road. I don't remember if I actually thought these things back then, but I remember the blasting, the heat. I remember trying to raise the temperature inside the car to melt the ice, the cold blanket of ice that covered the windshield. The wipers started to move an inch at a time, but the ice stayed put after the snow was cleared.
Welcome to Arirang Radio.
If you are in Jeju,
88.7 in Jeju City.
88.1 in Seogwipo City.
101.9 in the Daejeong area.
Arirang Radio.
So what is going on in this winter car?
Well, at the start, I think I was feeling the same as you were feeling when I was reading it. I was going, what is going on here? And it turns out the car is a memory. Okay. It's a memory of a day when she had to flee somewhere. Oh. And she's not specific. She's very vague. And she had to flee and she had to listen to her friend's story. And she's talking to her friend. So she's saying you as she talks.
Okay.
And she's talking in her mind. And she needs to begin her friend's story. She needs to write it. But it's already late. But she doesn't know how to start it. Oh. So we're getting all these clues that there's some urgency and there's this story that has to be told and yet she can't do it.
So this is all like a trail of thought, not necessarily real things that are happening or happened.
Well, it's all happening inside of a minute. Okay. It's the thoughts racing in her brain as she talks to her dead friend. And so she believes she needed to write it, but now she says she's in a moment of desperation. Someone has her by the hair.
Oh, literally?
Grabbed her hair. And her left foot is on the 13th step of a staircase, and her right foot is perched precariously on the 12th step.
Oh, dear.
And her scalp really hurts, and she's worried she's going to fall, and she doesn't know how to go on, and she has to begin this friend's story.
In that moment, she's thinking about this friend's story. Wow.
And so we flash to Paris, a memory of Paris at a metro station where she's trying to throw a front door key to someone on the opposite platform, but the key falls into the gap between the platform and the rail.
Uh-oh.
And then she thinks of a French novel she read and how she never said a word at the Language Institute when she lived in Paris and how she didn't have much money and how her friend was there at the same time and then how they accidentally locked themselves out of their apartment and then she thinks back again to the hand that's grabbing her hair.
Oh, it's all over the place.
Yeah. And she has to flee. So we get these repeating memories or repeating thoughts, these patterns, and as we return to each pattern, we get a little bit more information.
Yeah.
So she talks about her friend, and then she describes her friend, but then she also describes how she's standing right now on the staircase. Like she's sort of taking in where her body is, where each part of her body is, and time seems to have slowed almost to a halt.
We're like accessing her consciousness for this minute. Wow.
Yeah. And then she throws us a curveball. She starts to say where it went wrong. She tells her friend it went wrong when she brought back the wrong audio cable for the TV from the store.
So we're very confused now.
Yeah, but then you have to put the pieces together. And it's like, okay, there's this guy who's grabbed her hair, and this is where it went wrong. So is this talking about her relationship? Is this her husband or her lover? Okay. And did it start because of some kind of argument? And you get the sense that she could be about to die.
Uh-oh.
So we flip back and forth. Paris, her life in Mapo, in Seoul, and then this moment. And she goes back to Paris and the story of the locked apartment and calling an emergency locksmith and how much it cost. And then she wonders why her friend called her just 3 days before her friend died.
Oh.
So and this second excerpt, again, this is right in the middle of these thoughts. Yeah. When suddenly she flashes back to this question of why and what their friendship is.
That's where we'll pick it up.
My tears are about to fall. It is the instant before they fall, not because I'm sad, but because my body is responding to pain, fervent pain. Still, I must think. Why did you call me 3 days before you died? I thought about the reason for a long time, but not long enough. Only a few years. We went our separate ways. One remained in school, one got a 9-to-5 job, one moved back home, and one got married. During that time, we gradually lost touch. But once or twice a year at someone's wedding or funeral, when we saw each other again, we quietly recalled that time in Paris. We had that story in common and never grew tired of talking about it. Then all of a sudden you blurted out something about your family. It was a precise yet simple beginning, as if you'd fished out a mandarin orange from your pocket and offered it to me. Your story was unique but familiar, as if I've heard it before or experienced something similar, though I never did. I nodded. And I don't remember how the conversation ended that day. I only remember your expression. Could I call it relief? The expression that passed over your face. And for the most part, I didn't think about you. I rarely did, even after you died. Then all of a sudden, as if someone had found an orange in his pocket and offered it to me, as if I were gazing at the mandarin orange someone held out to me, you came to mind. That's when I thought I needed to write about you. No, let me be more precise. That's when I thought I needed to write about all your inscrutable hours. But I felt as if I were trying to solve a problem that had no answer. If you hadn't called me that Sunday, 3 days before you died, maybe I wouldn't have felt I had to write your story. We weren't exactly close. I was a few years ahead of you in school. Why had you called? That day was my birthday, and you had called to wish me a happy birthday. Though I didn't possess a sensitive ear, heard a kind of omen in your voice. But all I said was thanks, and in passing I added, see you soon. You laughed weakly. Though I heard only your laughter, it was easy to picture your expression. And then you died. That was a few years ago.
Please tell me we get to know why she died, all that mystery surrounding this.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, that's a lie, but you really wanted me to say that.
I really did. But why in this minute where it seems like the narrator is in big trouble, right?
Yeah.
Teetering on the edge, why is she so obsessed about needing to tell this story?
I can't answer your question. I think there could be multiple answers to your question.
Okay.
And this is one of the stories where you have to read it and experience it and then make up your own mind. Maybe it's regret. Maybe it's guilt.
Okay.
Maybe it's something else. But it's all tangled up, all these different emotions and memories.
Yeah.
And one thing that brought to mind reading this story was people say that your life flashes before your eyes before you die.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is this it?
Wow.
Is this what it feels like?
Okay. All these thoughts just coming through, all disconnected, discombobulated. Is the narrator about to die?
Well, that's what we don't know. And again, she returns to this moment,
Okay.
this elongated minute, and the man who grabbed her hair.
Mm-hmm.
And she recalls the funeral of her friend.
Okay.
And they went together.
Yeah.
And how the man in the car on the way home, the way he talked, sort of the violence in his language, and that she wished that she could have foreseen what was going to happen. And then she talks about the blue tape that's covering her mouth.
What's going on?
She's not mentioned this before, and suddenly it's like, is this a kidnapping?
Yeah.
Is this hostage situation? And there's a knife at the bottom of the staircase.
Uh-oh.
But she can't think because her hair is literally being ripped out.
Ouch.
She's barefoot. She thinks, why don't I have shoes on? And I have to flee. I need to flee, and I haven't even started writing the first sentence of your story yet.
Well, that's not important right now.
But it's unfinished business.
Okay.
When we talk about ghosts, have you ever heard the saying unfinished business in
Yes.
relation to ghosts? That the reason that spirits stay behind is because there is something not resolved.
Okay.
It feels like she's clinging onto life because this has not been resolved.
Okay.
And she regrets not fleeing sooner. She should have got out of the car after the funeral and fled from him there.
Oh.
And then it's back to Paris, and then it's back to that winter in the car, and then it's back to guilt, and back to regret, and back to the need to write the story, and back to the need to stay alive.
Wow. Do we know where this is, by the way?
We have no idea.
Okay.
I think it's in Seoul,
Okay.
because she talks about living in Mapo.
Uh-huh.
But it's never clear. It's deliberately unclear. And so she's like, I need to move. I need to grab the knife. I need to flee, but I can't think. And then, as we get towards the end of the story, the thoughts start to break apart.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we'll end our third reading, will be this breaking apart of thoughts in this final seconds of the long minute.
Wow. That's towards the end of the book, is it?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. But not as well. I think it's going to get rather distressing. We'll do that.
I haven't fallen yet, though I could fall any second, magnificently and wretchedly. I could tumble down the stairs, but I haven't yet. All of a sudden, a song comes to mind. row, row, row your boat. Heave ho, let's row. This is hell. Have I become a ghost too? I need to scream. Some point in the future, will it come? My strength is leaving me. I need to count the hours. How long has it been? So, row your boat. No, let's row. Knife. If I could pick up that knife. A pen instead of a knife. First, let's take the tape off. Blue tape. I should have opened the door. Ghost voice. It seems a dozen seconds have passed, but not even one has. Ghost voice. Your story. I'm about to fall. The snow is about to melt. You are about to die. 3 days, 1 second. I need to become a little wiser. I should have been. RCA. No, there's no time. Let's think something. A little better. The first sentence. The first snow. It hurts. Rain and drought. Terminal. Chord. Input. Delivery. Error. I'm realizing gradually some people, only after they've become ghosts, a voice can voice to you, but I'm right now, in this moment, tumbling down endlessly to hell. Tumbling down, keep falling. First sentence, a death sentence. Voice, scream, left foot. My vision, nothing at all. Nothing I need. Open my mouth, but did again. 1, 3, 2.
Well, that was even more distressing. And in the words of Aaron, when is a book that Paul brings not distressing?
Well, after last week and this week, I don't have a good answer for you.
My goodness. So I'm assuming this is the end.
This is the very end.
I mean, I'm assuming this is the end of her life as well.
Well, we don't know. It cuts off there. That's it. And you close the book and you're breathless.
Yeah.
You're gasping for air because you've been holding everything in as you read to this racing climax.
And thinking that this is just a minute, it makes it more like breathtaking.
Yeah, it's so well written. I love everything I've read of Han Yujoo. I hope that we get lots more translations of her work. And I'm really glad that we have this collection of chapbooks because we get to have this short story that might not have found a home anywhere else translated into English. So if you're interested, you can look up this story, the other stories. You can buy them individually or as a pack. There are translations by Sora Kim Russell, by Deborah Smith, Jun Sung-hee, Emily Yewon, and others. It's modern authors like Han Kang Baeswa, Hwang Jung-eun, Kim Soom, Jun Sung-tae, and more. And I chose this one today to start off. I'll hopefully feature some of the other books later on.
Are they in a certain order, or they're just all higgle-piggle?
There's a numerical order. This is number 8, but they're all different authors. They're not linked in that way. But I wanted to feature this one because I love that we're getting experimental literature. If you're a regular listener, you may remember Walking Practice by Dol Ki-min, translated by Victoria Caudle. And this is very different to that. Yeah. But they feel connected in this narrator talking to us in the moment and through spiraling thoughts and emotions.
And I could imagine that if you're in the final minute of your life, your brain might just go all over the place, almost like it's buffering and like a computer. I felt like it was getting almost mechanical towards the end.
I mean, I've been in the final moment of my life before. I thought it was, and I can say it's pretty similar to that. The most bizarre things come to mind in those moments where you think you might be about to die.
It's almost like malfunctioning or something. Wow.
And the other thing I think this really, really highlights is a big issue. I think it's all over the world, but certainly in Korea, we're seeing it more and more in recent years, the issue between men and women and the fear that many women may have about men either they know or don't know.
Yeah, there have been some crimes to highlight it in recent months and years.
Certainly. I mean, this year we've seen some shocking incidents of assaults and even murders. Yeah. But also you have if you're a woman and you've been to the public bathrooms here in Korea, you'll notice that the holes have been stuffed with bits of tissue paper or other things because there's a chance there could be a camera watching you.
That was a big issue, still is.
Still is. And this is the thing, I think as men, you and I, when we go to a public bathroom, we're not really worried. We're not concerned. I don't check. I'm here to do my business.
Yeah.
But I think it feels very, very different. And I think women, compared to men, can live their lives sometimes with a sense of danger around them.
Yeah.
And men don't have to do that, generally speaking.
Yeah, you could feel that in this short minute tale, right? That she
Yeah.
knew it deep down inside. Maybe she should have got away earlier. Like,
Yeah.
this was a dangerous man. It seems like that's what we know. There's
Exactly.
a man doing this to her.
And the thing is, it's never confirmed what her relationship to this man is. She knows him.
Yeah.
But whether he's a friend or a relative or a husband or a fiancé or a boyfriend, we don't know. But the point is, through these little scenes, you get the sense that she already knew in the back of her mind that something like this could be coming.
Yeah.
The warning signs were there. The red flags were there.
There's a lot of great tension built up in this. But yeah, when you watch some movies and dramas where there's that, bad, nasty male character.
Yeah.
You put yourself in that female's shoes, in whatever relationship it may be. It's a sense of dread, isn't it? It must be awful. And you're right. I don't think too many guys have that similar emotion.
No, and I think that's why books like this can be really good, because if you read it, then suddenly you see something from another side. And I think boys and men need to be taught about how to live their lives and how to behave better and to be better humans, because nobody should have to live their life in fear, and nobody should be worried that they'll be grabbed by the hair on the staircase.
Absolutely. Siska says the sentences that you read, they somehow sounded familiar as well. All these trains of thought, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's because this kind of thing could be universal. And it may be that Han Yujoo is using influences, because she talks in the book about looking at sentences and maybe accidentally stealing them.
Sure.
So there could be things where she's referencing that are familiar to you, Siska.
That's interesting. And then Aaron's saying it sounded like you were speaking through a broken intercom towards the end of that, when all the thoughts were like just one word. And the text on here, it's just like one Korean letter here and there as well. That's really
there's a
interesting.
kiok and a ryul.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't fully processed this story. It's going to take maybe a couple more readings to really get into it. And it's a story I want to return to, because I feel like it needs to be mined, needs to be dug out and excavated and explored.
Absolutely. Aaron also saying, being a woman in this world does seem extremely difficult, and sometimes the Justice Department turns a blind eye. I've been hearing stories on Good Morning Seoul as well, some awful ones about poor women assaulted by a stalker or murdered, even worse.
Yeah, and if you listen to last week's episode, last week's book, well, it's more of the same. And the culpability of the authorities is something that we have to look at very carefully.
Absolutely. We've improved a lot, of course. We've come a long way. We need to recognise that, but there's still a long, long way to go as well, in terms of equality and whatnot. Your one-line review for this, Paul?
A dark unravelling of the mind that sneaks up on you with its power.
Oh, perfect, isn't it? Next week, are we getting a little bit more jolly?
We're getting jollier. We are. We're getting a book I've been looking forward to for ages. I managed to contact the translator to ask for permission to feature. It's just been published.
Yes.
It's called Welcome to the Hyeonam-dong Bookshop by Hwang Borum, translated by Shanatan. I have not read it yet, but I am really looking forward to it.
That's
really
the
excited.
one that I think Leon talked about buying when it was released.
Yeah,
right?
a big hit in Korea. I'm hoping it's going to be a big hit around the world, but I'm really excited for it.
Shanatan. I don't recognise that name. Is that why we had to contact her? Because we've not featured
No,
her
we've not
work.
featured her before, but I'm not sure whether this is her first big translation being published, but certainly I've been friends with her on social media for a while.
Oh, nice.
So it's great to be able to feature this this big translation.
Fabulous stuff. Thanks, Paul, for your distressing, but in a powerful, meaningful way, reading today.
Yes, and thanks as always to the Literature Translation Institute of Korea for their help with copyright permissions for this broadcast. Thanks to Han Yujoo for her excellent and very disturbing stories sometimes, and to Janet Hong for her always brilliant translations. I'll be back next week with another book, a happier book.
Enjoy your Fruit Thursday tomorrow, Paul.
Fruit Thursday!
We will see you
Apples and
next
pears
Wednesday.
on the stairs.
Here
I'm
we go.
falling.
you can listen to Check It Out with Paul Matthews on Arirang Radio's #DailyK every Wednesday from 10 a.m. KST.